I'll start with a quote which I'm sure you know and is probably apocryphal from Gandhi, who was asked, what do you think of Western civilization, and allegedly said, I think it would be a good idea. And that roughly is the way things are. Civilization is like one of those big things, like sort of socialism and science and religion, which ought to be a fabulous idea, ought to be able to transform our lives very much for the better. And the thing it does, I think, more than anything else, the single thing it does, is to enable us to live in very big groups. And living in very big groups means that we can specialize and all that kind of stuff, so you can have special engineers and special teachers and even have writers of books. That's when you know you've arrived, I think. Anyway, however, so it ought to be fabulous, it ought to be liberating. However, there are some very, very big snags. One is the psychology. I mean, I refer you to Robin Dunbar of Oxford, who said it's very difficult for human beings to live in groups of bigger than 150 because you can't recognize many people bigger than that. Going where a corollary of that is that when you have big groups, they need to be organized, otherwise they become chaotic. So you have a bureaucracy arising, which automatically means you get some kind of oppression coming on. You get the rise of technology, which ought to be a good thing, but in fact, the way things are and the way things have always been, technology can just as easily be an agent of oppression as it can of liberation. And then you put, forgotten the point I was going to make now, but if you put two things together, the organization on the one hand, which tends to be reduced to an algorithm. In other words, you remove human judgment and you replace it with some kind of universal formula, which is what's happened in the economy, where we now have neoliberalism, the point not being that it is capitalist, but the point being that it is an algorithm. We just rely on the market to run our affairs, a terrible state of affairs. And we have technology of the kind which has led us to a kind of technophilia. Any new technology must be good. We now have the combination of neoliberalism and technophilia, which you see in governments, which you see in the Royal Society, which you see in everybody in serious positions of authority. And to my mind, actually, it's demonstrable. We're not going to talk about it here. I think this technophilia stroke neoliberalism is probably the greatest threat to humankind and to the biosphere that one can envisage, actually. It's much more dangerous than ISIS, for example, although we're on red alert to one and we're invited to vote for the other. So that's where civilization is, where it's always been, could be a good thing, actually highly equivocal.